I'm pretty sure Karen didn't think at all that things would end this way. I'm very sure she didn't see this coming. It all started when I saw four HOA board members standing at my gate on a Wednesday evening. I wondered what they needed since nobody from that circus had ever dared step foot this far down the dirt road. When I walked out, they stood there, polished shoes sinking into the mud, looking like lost city folks who accidentally walked into the wrong county fair. Their spokesperson, a tall man who kept glancing nervously at the woman beside him, cleared his throat and told me they were from the HOA next to my farm. Welcome to Prodigy Tales. Make sure you like and subscribe for your top-notch HOA drama. According to them, my farm was dragging down property values, staining the reputation of their exclusive community, and in their words, it was high time I packed up and left. I almost choked on my laughter. The irony was too thick to ignore. My farm was here decades before their houses even existed. In fact, half their neighborhood used to belong to me. Some of the very houses they were bragging about sat on land I sold them years ago. Now they wanted to evict the landlord of their foundations? That was a comedy show I hadn't bought tickets to. Karen, standing in front like she was running for Queen of HOA World, had this smug little grin plastered on her face. The other three men looked like prisoners dragged into battle they never signed up for. She was clearly the one pulling the strings, and her eyes glared at me like she'd already won the war before the fight began. Then came the kicker. They generously offered to buy my farm for a ridiculous sum that couldn't even cover the cost of repairing my oldest barn. That was the part where I laughed so hard I had to lean on the fence for balance. That moment, something in me snapped from amusement to curiosity. I realized this wasn't just a power grab, it was personal, and it had Karen's fingerprints all over it. Before we dive in deeply, let us know in the comments what country or which city you're watching this story from. We'd love to know how far this story travels. The very next morning, while I was still shaking my head at the nonsense they had spewed the day before, a crisp envelope showed up in my mailbox. No return address, just the HOA's letterhead stamped across the top like it was a royal decree. I opened it and sure enough, there it was in black and white. I had exactly 60 days to vacate my property or sell it off, preferably to them. It wasn't even a suggestion. They worded it like a command. They didn't just want me gone, they wanted to erase me. I sat at my kitchen table, sipping coffee, staring at the letter, and the more I read it, the more absurd it became. They thought they could push me out of my land. The very soil that raised me, fed me, and paid for half their fancy houses? Not happening. Instead of burning the letter, I decided to dig deeper into what was fueling this madness. So I started asking around, making a few calls, pulling strings I knew from my years of business. It didn't take long before the truth began bubbling up like oil. Karen wasn't just leading the charge because she hated looking at hay bales from her window. She was drowning financially. Word was her house was weeks away from foreclosure. The bank was already circling, and she needed a big score to stay afloat. Suddenly, it all made sense. If she could bully me into selling my farm cheap, she'd flip it for double, climb out of debt, and polish her crown as the savior of the HOA. That's when the devilish idea hit me. If she wanted land so bad, I'd give her something else to choke on. Through a shell company, an LLC I set up for situations exactly like this, I went straight to her mortgage lender. With a few signatures, some wired cash, and absolutely no fanfare, I became the proud, hidden owner of Karen's house. The irony was delicious. While she was trying to run me out, I had quietly bought the very floor under her designer shoes. The best part? She had no clue. About a month later, just when the dust seemed to settle, Karen came storming up my driveway like a sheriff from a spaghetti western, except she was armed with nothing but a loud mouth and cheap perfume. She banged on my gate so hard, the old iron latch rattled. "Why haven't you left yet?" she screeched, her voice bouncing off the barn walls. "It's been a month. You're supposed to be packing, not planting more crops." Her face was beet red, her heels sinking into the dirt, and I swear the cows lined up at the fence just to watch the free entertainment. I leaned against the post, letting her burn herself out. She had no idea she was ranting at the very man who now owned her roof, her walls, and the overpriced kitchen she bragged about at HOA brunches. The LLC had played its part well. She thought some mysterious buyer had purchased her property but was kind enough to let her stay until he decided what to do with it. If only she knew that he was standing right in front of her, wearing muddy boots and holding a pitchfork. Her tantrum didn't stop there. She jabbed her finger at me through the bars, hurling threats about legal action, HOA bylaws, and how I'd be sorry when the community forced me out. I just smirked knowing she was already living on borrowed time in a house that wasn't even hers anymore. The more she yelled, the more ridiculous it became. Her voice cracked, her arms flailed, and the more she talked, the more the men working in my fields paused just to laugh at the show. I could have revealed myself right then, ripped the curtain back and let her choke on the truth, but patience has always been my sharpest weapon. Timing mattered. I wanted her downfall to sting, to cut so deep she'd never dream of crossing me, or anyone, again. So I kept my cool, nodded like I was actually listening, and let her storm off with the illusion that she still had the upper hand. Meanwhile, I was already planning the exact moment to flip her perfect little HOA kingdom upside down. A few days later, I decided it was finally time to pull the rug out from under Karen's feet. The sun was barely up when I loaded my beat-up pickup with hay bales, buckets of feed, and a few rusty tools, everything Karen hated about my farm life. I rumbled down the road and turned right into her pristine driveway, parking squarely in front of her garage. The screech she let out could have cracked glass. "What the hell do you think you're doing?" she shrieked, storming out in her robe, hair wrapped in curlers, coffee splashing from her mug. "Get this filthy farm junk off my property." She stomped toward my truck, waving her arms like a windmill ready to take flight. The neighbors peeked from their windows, drawn in like spectators at a circus. But before Karen could work herself into another lecture about property values, a black SUV rolled up behind me. Out stepped the agent who had handled all the paperwork for my little secret purchase. Calm, collected, clipboard in hand, he walked right past Karen's flailing arms. "Ma'am," he said smoothly, "you need to relax. This man is the new legal owner of this house." The silence that fell over the neighborhood was golden. Karen froze mid-scream, her jaw unhinged like it had been greased off its hinges. What?" she stammered, looking from him to me, then back again. Her face drained of color. "No, that's not possible. This is my house!" I leaned on my truck, arms crossed, grinning like a fox in the henhouse. "Not anymore, Karen." Her knees buckled, and for a second, I thought she might collapse on the spot. Tears welled up, but rage quickly replaced them. She lunged toward me, screaming something about fraud, scams, and how she'd sue me into the ground. But the agent handed her the official documents, neatly stamped and signed. Every word confirmed the truth. The farm guy she wanted gone now owned her crown jewel. With the entire neighborhood watching, I told her to pack up and leave immediately. By sunset, Karen was gone, and by morning, her former pride and joy had been transformed into a mini ranch, complete with hay stacked in the foyer and my tractor parked in the driveway. The end. Please like and subscribe for more HOA showdowns like this. Do you think she got what she deserves? Comment below. Also, if you really love this video and want to support the channel directly, you can hit that super thanks button below. It really helps us keep bringing you more HOA chaos.